The number is staggering: $47 billion of dirty money being washed through the Canadian economy, according to a report released by the BC government. BC Premier John Horgan has now launched a public inquiry into how this massive problem is affecting the economy, the housing market, and is contributing to the opioid crisis. Will it get any answer? And what about the rest of Canada? Let's find out. Joining me now is the Minister of Border Security and Organized Crime Reduction, Bill Blair. Good to see you, sir.
Morning.
The first thing that struck me is the report in British Columbia said $7 billion, but that's just a small part of the money. Where is the rest of the money being laundered?
You know, money laundering is a transnational organized crime problem. But unfortunately, as a result of some of the challenges we've seen in this country with respect to the transparency of beneficial ownership and even the resources necessary to enforce our laws and to prosecute these offenders, we've seen other criminals who are laundering their money through a number of instruments in Canada. We've seen it in the BC casinos. We know it's been affecting their housing market as well. But it's not just limited to British Columbia as well. It's really important to recognize this is a problem that exists right across the country. It's exactly why we've taken some very significant steps. The Prime Minister gave me responsibility to bring forward new regulations, to develop new resources, and to develop better coordination of the intelligence gathering, the enforcement, and the prosecution of these offenders.
I guess my question is, why is it taking so long? BC is having this public inquiry because they say, look, we're desperate here. It is, and so again, we still haven't got the answer. If $7 billion has been come to light in British Columbia, where's the other $34 billion? Where's it coming from? Is it in Ontario? Is it in Quebec? Do you know as the minister?
Well, and one of the things that was clearly identified in British Columbia is that it's difficult to determine the exact scope and scale of the problem of money laundering, but I'm not disputing the impact that it's having on the Canadian economy and on our financial instruments, and even on the affordability of things that we need in our lives, such as decent housing. And so it's something that we are absolutely committed to dealing with. And I'll tell you, starting several years ago, as a result of some budget pressures, the RCMP closed down their money laundering investigative units, their proceeds of crime units in British Columbia, and they have not had adequate resources to deal with that.
Are you blaming the Harper government for a $40 billion money laundering problem?
No, absolutely.
Because
let me be really clear. What I'm concerned about is how do we deal with it now? How do we fix the problem now? Like I've got a pretty good sense of how we got here because I've been involved in those investigations for decades. But I know the scope of the problem. I'm working very closely with Peter German. I've had several meetings with David Eby, the Attorney General in British Columbia. We're working to make sure that the RCMP have the resources they need. We make sure that they're having the new regulatory authorities they need to conduct investigations.
And I get that, and you're going to list off the money, the $164 million in the new budget. I understand.
We're going to fix it.
I understand that, but it's $47 billion, Bill Blair. That is a problem. My question
where's the money coming from?
Somebody's trying to, the average person is saying, how the hell did it get out of control? Were we blindfolding here?
No, absolutely not. But as a result of digital currencies, cryptocurrencies that are out there, the international financial instruments have been evolving and moving ahead rapidly, and it's important that we keep up. And we've got to make sure that we're adequately resourcing law enforcement. We've also experienced some difficulties in prosecuting offenders. There was a great investigation done in British Columbia. It's called ePirate, and they were not able to proceed with that prosecution. And we've looked at why that investigation and prosecution did not succeed, and we're bringing in changes to the law so that we're creating an offense, for example, of recklessness, so that those corporations who are wantonly reckless over the source of those monies are now going to be able to be held to account. So we're creating new authorities, new resources, and we're getting in front of this. I will tell you that much of this money comes from transnational organized crime groups that are involved in the production and trafficking of drugs like fentanyl. It's killing thousands of Canadians each year. They've been involved in a number of different significant, impactful, organized criminal activities they do it for money.
Okay.
And they've got to clean that money, and they have been cleaning some of that money in Canada, and we're going to stop it.
In the BC report, yeah, a lot of the money in the real estate, they say, is coming from China. People are buying houses. They want to make an act so you cannot buy a house with a numbered company, right? The Transparency Act. That should be national as far as I'm concerned. But a lot of the money's coming from the U.S. What are you doing in the United States to stop the dirty money flowing from into our country and using Canada basically as an international money laundering facility?
The relationship that we have with U.S. law enforcement, again, I've been part of that for decades, is very, very close. The cooperation between ourselves, the U.S., and all of our Five Eyes partners in the sharing of this information. But even within our own country, we've got to have greater coordination. It's one of the reasons we're establishing a coordination center here in Ottawa, bringing in representatives internationally, but also from all of our national enforcement agencies that collect information, gather intelligence, analyze their data, and share it and coordinate it so that we can be more effective in our response.
Minister, I want to talk about guns. You had the report. You were on this program. We talked about the report. You had 134,000 responses on this. I've been waiting. The Prime Minister was with the leader of New Zealand, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, the leader he says he admires most in the world. She just took actions in the wake of the massacre in New Zealand on guns, on assault weapons. She doesn't understand why other countries haven't done it. You've done the study now. Canada, we've had a massacre at a mosque. We've had police officers gunned down in places like Mayerthorpe. Are you going to act? Will there be a gun ban?
Evan, I can tell you. There are weapons that are designed solely to kill people. Their whole intent and purpose is to be efficient in the killing of people. And we've seen in mass murders in Canada and around the world that those weapons have been used for that purpose because they are efficient killing machines. I feel very strongly that there's no place for those weapons in Canadian society. I've done a very exhaustive review of this issue and traveled and spoke to people right across the country. I will tell you, I believe there's an overwhelming consensus in this country that public safety is important, that we deserve to be safe in our communities and in our places of worship, and those weapons, which have been used to kill so many people, have no place in our society.
Okay, so let's talk how you do it. The government could implement this. There's only a couple weeks left in the House, but you could do an order in council over the summer. You could do an assault weapons ban. Are you, as the minister, pushing the Prime Minister to get this done? It's something that your government believes in. The Prime Minister is with the leader of New Zealand. He says Canada's back. This would be an opportunity. Are you pushing to get this done?
I can tell you that for me, there is no greater responsibility than the safety of our communities and safety of our kids. And I believe there's no place for those particular weapons in our society. I've made my view very, very clearly known. And I believe it's a view shared by my government and a view shared by most Canadians.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I got this right. You're not ruling out an order in council to institute some kind of gun ban, some kind of weapon ban over the summer. You would not rule that out.
Yeah, I want to be really clear. There is no measure that I think we can rule out that will legitimately contribute to greater safety for our citizens. And
you would like it to I mean, look, I know you're a cop for 40 years. You would support this.
I've seen the devastating impact that those weapons can have on our communities. We saw a military-style weapon used at the mosque in Quebec. We also saw it slaughtering children in Sandy Hook. They've been used to kill police officers in the line of duty. Those weapons, I think, represent an unacceptable risk to Canadians, and I've worked most of my life to keep Canadians safe. And so I believe very strongly that there is more that we must do.
So if there's no order in council this summer, which is possible, could be in the election platform. Bill Blair would want that.
Bill Blair wants Canadians to be safe. So does my Prime Minister, so does my government.
I got to leave it there. Minister, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.